podcasting from sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to Tips for Tour Operators, your podcast for growth hacks, marketing tips, and actionable insights from leading experts in the tourism industry.
Hey everybody, Adam Arkfeld with Outdoor Adventure Marketing, and welcome to our Tips for Tour Operators podcast and video podcast. Today we have JJ with Stellar Adventures joining us, and we're going to be talking about growing your outdoor activities company. When you're in a single market and maybe you start hitting the bounds of that market and what it has to offer, and JJ has done a great job of growing his business substantially over the last 20 years. 20 years now?
20 years.
And so he's going to give us some insight into how he did that. So, JJ, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let's get started. Why don't you just tell us a bit about your background, how you started and got into the business, and give us a brief overview of the last 20 years.
Yeah, so Stellar Adventures originally was Extreme Hummer Adventures in 1997. October of 1997 is when the company began with one Hummer. Started doing the tours of the desert from the Four Peaks area. Slowly but surely started to grow from there as the demand of the people traveling in this area came out. And then we've obviously expanded from just being a Hummer tour company to quite a few other activities. So in 2000, changed the name to the corporation name Stellar Adventures to encompass all the different activities that we offer. And as of October of this year, 2018, we're celebrating our 20th year in business.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so take us back to the very beginning when you said you had one Hummer in 1997, and talk about how you got into the business and what that process looked like and how that evolved.
Yeah, well, basically, I was graduated from college in Indiana. Looked to get out of Indiana and wanted to come out west, so I found myself here in the Phoenix area and became a concierge at a resort called the Phoenician that's here in town, and obviously saw the demand at that time, 1999, 2000. There wasn't as many activities as we have obviously here in town. There were only a couple companies doing the off-road tours or some Jeep companies, but not much on the Hummer side of it. So got the opportunity to get into this side of it and decided to take the leap and risk it. And obviously, leaving a steady job to go to it, the activity side of it was the adventure side of it was what I wanted. So so basically dove into it, had that one Hummer, and then just started to pound the pavement to try to get as many people, as many concierge around the valley to invest in us, to use us for their tours and their guests.
So tell me a little bit about the pace for growth. Like if you had one Hummer, did you say in 1999 you were still at one?
Yep.
Even in 2000? And then so how did that kind of grow?
It basically, the demand was there. So the good thing, and what I obviously will tell most people that are starting up a company, especially in the adventure side of it, is you'll have times where you're super busy and you feel like you could have 30 trucks, 45 ATVs. You basically will have those times, seasonal times in this business that make you feel like, okay, I can go and invest in that and I'm going to make it. Well, then you have the summertime where you can barely keep one or two trucks available or busy enough, or one trailer of ATVs, and now you have that fleet sitting there being unused but still costing you money. So basically, the way I did it was, in a sense, smoke and mirrors. I mean, to be completely honest. Like,
all right.
It really was. Like
takeaway number one, smoke and mirrors.
It is. Like, I mean, obviously, having two trucks, when I really started to get to the point where I was like, okay, this is going to be a business, I need to start to go from just getting the families of 2, 3, 4 people to possibly getting some of the larger groups, some of the corporate activity that was in town. So I started to go to the destination management companies, to the meeting planners, outside of the realm of the concierge, which are where you're going to get your families. Once I started going in there, obviously the number one question they have is how many people can you handle? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in all sense, I can handle about 20 people because I had 2 trucks that held 10 people. But that wasn't going to get me into the door. Well, I had lucky enough to make friends with a lot of other companies, or a couple other companies that were in town that had a larger fleet. They've been in business longer, and worked a deal with them to say, hey, if I ever need some extra seats, can I buy or subcontract your trucks to utilize for some of my groups, and vice versa. If you ever need any more seats, I'm happy to let you use my trucks in that same sense. So, you know, now I could walk into the place if I had a company that, you know, had 6 or 7 more trucks. Now I'm walking into a meeting planner or a destination management company saying, hey, I can do 75 people. It's a, you know, even though I only had 2 trucks to my name in my business, utilizing those other people when they're available made me have the expansion that I needed to get to some of these larger corporate groups where obviously you're going to get the money coming in a little bit more, and then you're going to have that lump sum group come right away. And in one tour, you're doing what I would do sometimes in you know, 2 weeks. So in the smoke and mirror side of it, that allowed me to get my reputation up for giving these great tours. You know, the DMCs started word of mouth to other DMCs. Oh, who do you use for Hummer tours? Oh, I use JJ with Stellar Adventures. Oh, he's got enough trucks. Oh, he has 75. And it just kind of flows through for you on your own. And then now I'm like, okay, I'm established in this industry in the sense of the corporate side. Now it's time to start building my fleet. So I waited for the demand to come and the money to come in that sense, instead of overexerting myself in the sense where I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy them all and then go look for the business. I let the business come to me and then expand it.
Yeah,
so,
kind of like sales solve all problems, you know, focus on sales first.
Totally, yes. I mean, that's exactly it.
Do you have a trigger point mentally or anywhere where it's like, okay, now it's time to buy a new truck? So for example, is it like an amount of cash in the bank, or like what's the inflection point for that?
I would say I make it's a primitive system in the sense for myself, but I kind of make mental notes and notes on my computer for when, let's just on the Hummer side of it before we get to the other one. So the Hummer side of it, I would make a note. I'd go back through the year and say how many times I booked a group that was over my number of Hummers. So let's say when I started to grow and I have 5 Hummers, let's say 5 Hummers. So I would go back and look for any of those groups that I did of 50 or more to see how many times I contracted out that extra truck for, let's say it was $650, $750 for the extra truck. So I would count how many trucks I used through that season, and basically that $750 are times 25 times, and I'm like, okay, listen, I could purchase another truck and keep that vehicle busy just from this year. If I stay as busy as what I was there, well, I'm always assuming that I'm going to be busier the next season. I mean, that's kind of how I motivate myself, is this was great, but I can't wait for next year. So I would basically go, okay, I did this many groups that large, it's time to bring another truck in. So that way I can cut off that subcontractor and that money is now mine.
So the expectation is that next year will always be busier.
I mean, obviously in this industry, you can never predict. I mean, this is the weirdest industry in the sense of, like, if you look at a March, like if I look through March 2018, and I'm like, man, I feel like we were busier March 2017 or 2016. They just don't work that way in this industry because the travel climate is always so different. Yeah, it's spring break and spring training time, but the economy can be so different that it's not like those same people. The Smith family don't come out here every year. They go to Florida, they go to Canada, they go overseas. So it's different because you can't just look and say, I did 480 people in March. This is great. I'm going to do 480 people in March 2019. That's not going to be the case, but in my mind, to keep me motivated, I'm always going, okay, I'm going to do more than that because my marketing is going to be better. My tour options are going to be better. I'm going to add more to it to try to bring in those people that maybe came in 2018 but didn't do one of our activities. They did hiking or biking. Well, I'm going to add hiking and biking because I want to get that Smith family in to us.
Right.
So
okay. So you had one truck in around 2000, and At what pace were you adding vehicles with this formula in mind over the next, and then when was the next time that you, as a second part to that, when was the next time that you added a new service? So how long were you doing just Hummers? Okay. Then when did that change?
Yeah, so obviously the Hummer side of it, we increased, I think it's an accelerated rate. I mean, we added by 2002, we had 4 trucks in the fleet. So I mean, really,
one to 4 in 2 years.
Yeah, 1 to 4 in a couple years, which in my mind that's pretty quick for this side of it, the Hummer side of it, because like I said, there wasn't a lot of Hummer companies. There were Jeep companies all over the place. They've been here for 25 years. So so it was a new market, a new activity, which helped. But yeah, I mean, I would say that was pretty rapid in the sense of that. Well, just like in anything, or at least in the way I tried to go at the adventure market in my mind to be, I was JJ the Hummer guy. I mean, that was literally what people call me. And I mean, I still get called that. 18 years later, I still get called that, even though I offer a ton of other activities. I realized I didn't want to be pigeonholed into one activity, because once people do that activity and come back out and do it, they're not going to, once more activities arrive in this area, they're not going to keep coming back to it. You're not going to get as many repeat guests as you'd want to. So I knew real quick I needed to I wanted to become an outfitter. I mean, I didn't want to just be a Hummer tour company. I wanted to be an outfitter that offered any kind of activity in this area in the Sonoran Desert that was on our level to any of the people that wanted to call. I didn't want to say, no, we don't have that, and hang the phone up. So shortly after we expanded the Hummers and we're getting into the corporate side of it along with the family side, and we're in a lot of the 5-star hotels, I started getting the calls for, well, do you do ATVs? I mean, I want to do something more hands-on. I want to be kind of in control. Your Hummer tour was great, but we just want to get out in the desert and experience a little bit more than having a guide drive us. Well, so there's the phone calls start coming in. So again, my same sense of going through and at the end of the season and seeing how many times I had to subcontract trucks and adding that up to see what that money value was, I would log how many times I was on the phone and said, no, I don't do ATVs, no, I don't do ATVs, no, I don't do ATVs. So I would kind of put that like if I was going to charge just for the ATVs, that's $300 I left on the table, $600 I left on the table, and just kind of would look at this sheet that I'm filling up going, okay, I need to make a choice here. I need to either explore the more hands-on ATV side of it, or find a company that I can partner with that I'm going to either be able to send over those phone calls and get maybe a commission cutback, or we just need to go for it. Well, I took the choice because I've always wanted to, I partnered with those companies to grow, but once I got to the time that I wanted to grow, I wanted to keep everything as in-house as possible, because that way you have more control of the guides, their experience, their training, and it's just, you can get everybody on the same page versus kind of not sure where you're sending your guests to. So we took the leap, went for the ATV side of it, got a trailer full, started with 8 ATVs so we could handle most of the little families, just like we did with the Hummer side of it. Didn't really go for any of the corporate side of it, just kind of went to the concierge, went for those families, those couples traveling, those families of 4. And it was a huge hit. I mean, they absolutely loved the sense of just kind of strapping on the helmet, driving through 25, 30 miles of trail in the Sonoran Desert, brushing up against them. It was a whole different feel to that group that wanted to be in the Hummer with the roll cage around them, having a nice water, listening to the guide, and just enjoying not having to do anything. So it was 2 levels of travelers that now we were getting, the adventurous ones and the ones that just were like, hey, I'm glad you're driving this thing, and I'm glad I'm sitting back here and just enjoying. So that was really the first expansion to the ATV side of it. It was my first break off.
That's interesting, because in both cases it sounds like you're really listening to market demand and not trying to create market demand or anticipate it necessarily. You're seeing what people are asking for, and then you said earlier that you put a dollar amount to that. So it's like you're almost like reverse projecting how much money you would have made.
That's exactly that was the way. I've been in the industry long enough that I've seen a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am business wise fail because they went too big too soon, and we're like, if I create it, they'll come. Well, that's not always the case. There's always so many different activities, and you just don't know the traveler that's going to be coming out. You just don't know if they're that adventurous traveler, if they're the laid back, or if they're the person that goes, I want to do with the Desert Belle, or I want to go baseball games. Like it's too tough to just go, look at this beautiful thing I've built, now come to it. I always listen to the consumer. Like I wanted the traveler to come to me and go, you know what? This is an amazing trip. I've done your Hummer tour. Your ATV tour was awesome. You should think about doing this. Well, one's not going to make me create the tour, but again, if I start logging down every time that somebody goes, you know what? We'd love to do some biking, like some mountain biking would be so cool. This is great doing the ATVs, but we'd like to get out there and just get a little exercise onto it and do that. Well, you just kind of listen, and once you get so many times, again, like I said, I don't like to say no to them, so I would just basically be like, okay, this is what we might need to look at for that next activity that we're going to offer in Stellar Adventures. And then basically just, if the demand's there, we supply it. And now we know the people are already asking for it, so investing that money to do that side of it isn't as risky because you know that they're looking for it. Instead of me going, hey everybody, look, now I do biking, come to me, I do biking. So there's a company that's been in town 20 years doing biking, so it's a risk to go up against a company like that to add a new activity. So I wait for them to come to me, and now I'll slowly expand on that side of it. So
if someone is adding vehicles too fast, how does that get you in trouble? Are you buying vehicles outright, or do you have payments on them?
Well, luckily in mine, I buy vehicles outright. So that way it's easier to hold your budget down when you know that you're not sending these payments out. You know that you own the stuff in the back of the shop. You can price accordingly. You can budget what you need to work on them a little bit better. I mean, like I said, they're definitely, I've seen a lot of companies do that you don't realize that even if you're buying them outright and they're sitting in your garage, they're still costing you a lot of money. Like, it's not like, oh, if it doesn't go out, and my fuel's not going out, my guide's not going out, but insurance and just upkeep and all that stuff is basically going right out the window with the vehicle that's sitting there. So I always like to get them, like I said, I mean, it's still a risk to add when the demand's there, but at least I can look back on that year and go, 38 times I used this other guy's truck, 38 times. So that's 38 times that if I had that one more truck, that I should be able to use that. So, I mean, as simple as it sounds, I get that truck, and then the next year, go back and go 42 times, even with my extended fleet now, I use another truck to the next one. So it gets to a point, and then obviously there's still times I still use other people's trucks. At this point, but what happened is I'd look back and be like, I used this other truck 9 times. It's not going to benefit me to buy another truck. You know what I mean? I'd rather just let him deal with the maintenance, the fuel, and the guide costs, and I just subcontract him to cover that 9 times. It's not worth it.
Right.
So you'll come to a point when you get to that certain size that's just what it is. That's just, you get to the point where you get to the size that most of these corporate groups do, because, the corporate groups can be 4,000 people coming in, 6,000 people. But this out here in Arizona, which is a great advantage for these corporate groups, which is why they come out here. There's so many activities now. I mean, from indoor skydiving to going out to the middle of Sonoran Desert. So they're offering 30 different activities for these 4,000 people from shopping to us. So these groups aren't as big as what they used to be. So they've got so many more opportunities. You're not going to get those 150, 180 person groups like we used to get 10 years ago. So you just get to a certain point, and that's when I kind of max out. I go, okay, I think we're set on this side of it. Let's focus on another activity and build that one.
Yeah. All right. So with the groups, is there a size of fleet that basically covers, and Phoenix is a city of 4.5 million people-ish? So what size fleet covers maybe 90 to 95% of groups, where it's like, okay, it's not really worth it to go bigger because there's just not enough groups?
I mean, I have 10 trucks in my fleet. I can handle
10 Hummers.
Yeah, 10 Hummers and my M1009 Blazers. So, so 7 Hummers, 3 of the M1009 Blazers, all converted the same way. So literally, we run them for these larger groups, the exact same trails. So I can do 110 people in my fleet alone. That right there, and I've been running that for 5 years now. Okay. So, I mean, I've hit that max that I think that it's not worth going any higher like we were discussing. There's another company that's got a couple trucks, so I can go up to 130 if I really need to get to that. But it also comes to a point where you know, the quality of the tour. You want to still keep the quality in there. I mean, yes, you love the large groups and the big numbers and running them through there, but you also don't want to have this line of trucks going through the desert that are just, you know,
you don't want to be the last truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's going to...
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the, on the curb, you'll see everybody run to the front. They're smart on the front. They've either been on a tour before or they know the dust out here. But yeah, so I mean, my fleet has been perfect for me for the last 5 or 6 years. Like, I have no want whatsoever to go. I've had other companies in town that have gone out of business say, hey, you want to buy our trucks? It's not even, you know what I mean? It's not worth it to me because I think that those trucks will be sitting more than what they'll be driving because I've got that side set. Well, that's where we get to the ATV and the UTV side of it. The ATV and the UTV side of it is the big boom right now. I mean, the ATVs have been around for quite a while. But
when did you add those? You said you added 8 or so.
It would have been 2002, 2003 is when we added our first ones, and we've just expanded since then. Okay. I mean, like, literally, we run right now 40 single units for the ATVs, and I am getting calls for more. Like, I mean, the DMCs and the meeting planners, like, we need more. So it's getting to that point, just like I did with the other one, where I'm like, we don't have any more. There's nowhere else I can go. So the demand is getting there to where I think that that's the next step is getting more of those, because used to be, because of liability reasons, a lot of the corporations wouldn't even put their guests and their employees on the ATV side of it. But again, that side of the market has changed completely. Like, I mean, it's been great in the sense of our business, but it was like a no-no. I mean, they were like, no way, we're not going to put them out there. We don't want to be responsible for them driving an ATV through the desert. But I think that also has to do with your staff. You know what I mean? Like, my guides are the best in the business. I'm biased, obviously, but I mean, they're the best in the business. If they listen to our guides and do what they're supposed to do, they're going to be fine. And I think that's what the people are starting to realize. Why not let them have the activity they want just because you're worried that they're all grown adults. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be responsible enough to go out and enjoy it and understand there is a danger to it. So that part of it, the ATV, I think, is the next one. The UTVs have spawned right off of that. The 4-seater UTVs that we run, that's my newest in the sense of the ATVs or the off-road adventure. That's my newest one because, again, I think that it came from some of those groups that have liability issues or, corporate rules that say no dirt bikes, no ATVs, no UTVs, roll cage, 4 seats, steering wheel, gas pedal, brake, no handlebars, no shifting of any gears. I mean, it's like driving a golf cart on the golf course with a roll cage. I mean, it's as simple as that. So I think that eases their mind to have that extra comfort and that extra security over the top of them. So the corporate side is good, but the families, it's been amazing. I mean, when you got a family of 4 and dad really wants to go on an ATV, mom does not want to touch an ATV, or vice versa. We've had it both ways. And then you've got a 8-year-old and a 7-year-old. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily, I mean, they can't drive themselves, but they don't want to be hugging on the back of mom and dad's back the whole ride, motorcycle style on a 2-seater ATV. The 4-seater UTV, everybody has their own jump seat. They're strapped seatbelt so they can just look around 360 degrees and enjoy the ride still and get that same feel of driving themselves by holding the handlebar right in front of them that it does. And so it's been huge, and that's kind of the way I went with it. But I mean, it's been much better than what I thought. I mean, from not just the families to 4 guys that are like, you know what, I can't drive for 2 hours on an ATV, but we'll share this riding and do 30, 45 minutes a piece and get to enjoy it. Plus, it's economical. You know what I mean? Versus getting 3 or 4 single units now the UTV is almost half the price per person because they're sharing the 4. So that's always a great option when I get a lot of the people are like, we really want to do this. It's way out of our budget. I can try to work into their budget, you know, without saying no to them. You know, oh, well, we can't do this. You have to try something else. Yeah. I want to make sure they get out because number one rule is we're here for them to experience the desert and have fun. I mean, we're here to create fun for these guests and educate them about the Sonoran Desert. So the last thing I want to do is go be that one step saying, oh, because you can't afford it, you can't go out and experience it. And then maybe they never go, and then maybe they never come back to the Sonoran Desert. Yeah. So I want to make sure somewhere along my outfitter company, I have something they can do, whether it's even if just them walking in the desert with the guide, you know, get rid of all the motorized stuff, a bike, an ATV, a Hummer. If you want to just get out and walk, we'll go to a trail close to your hotel. A guide will walk you through and give you all the same education that you would if you were in the Hummer.
Yeah. So when did you start adding the UTVs? UTVs
would have been 2015. Yep, the end of 2015.
Pretty recent.
Yeah, that's my pretty much my newest motorized tour that I've offered. So yeah, I mean, it was, again, that one came exactly from it. There was another company that came into town that had UTVs. And so I was starting to get more and more calls because they were just assuming I had UTVs. And it was, at first, people didn't want the UTV because they didn't want to share it. Yeah. So I was loading up on single because I figured everybody wanted to drive their own, everybody wanted the experience. But like I said, the family started deciding this is something we want to do. Well, they kind of changed the market. I mean, they were like, well, we don't all 4 want to ride. We want to ride together. And then that's kind of how that went. So that's the side of it that I'm really growing at this point. Through this summer for next season, that's where I'm going to try to extend my fleet quite a bit. Again, because the DMCs are like, we want to use you, you need more UTVs. And I mean, when you get multiple ones telling you that, it's a comfort level when you write that check to buy them, when you know that they're in your ear saying, yes, you need more, versus me starting to write this check going, I wonder if we're going to sell these. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it just, as the owner of the company and the person that writes the check, at least I can go, here, you know, we're ready to order them because I've got that, what I feel like the people that I've worked with for several years behind me going, yeah, do it. You need to do it. We'll sell it. So you have a relationship with the DMCs and you've mentioned them a couple different times. How do you start those relationships initially and how do you continue to grow them? The DMCs are a total different beast in the industry. I mean, obviously the concierge are the people that help out for the hoteliers and the FITs. The DMC, the destination management companies, are the same thing, but for giant corporations like IBM, Microsoft, Tito's Vodka. You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones that get called and say, hey, we want to come to Scottsdale or Phoenix area for our meeting. What is there to do? So they contact the DMC, and then hopefully the DMC says, oh, well, here's the activities that we recommend and that what we would love for you to do. Let us know what you're interested in, and then we'll contact them and get everything set up for you. So the thing I realized really quick about the DMCs versus, you know, the family tours that were one-on-one with you is the DMCs are really, really into loyalty and responsibility. Like, I mean, they're basically taking this large corporation, which to them is several $1 million after hotels and restaurants and our activities, and then basically putting their name on my company as an extension of them to show them a good time. So I realized real quick, I work for them. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I own my own company, but I work for that DMC when we're doing this tour and this activity because I have to make sure that I do the standard and the tour and what they sold that corporation, or else they'll cut that tie real quick. And it's very tough to get back into that kind of industry once, or that kind of a destination management company if you create doubt in them. It's very tough. I mean, it's almost like high school in a sense, because if you do, knock on wood, you don't, but you make a mistake or they feel like that you didn't represent them the way that they sold you to, not only does it hurt your reputation with them, it's paper walls in the industry. A lot of those DMCs, many of them are next door to each other or are in the same business complexes. They'll hear about it, and it creates doubt. And the one thing you can't have when you're working for big corporations and destination management companies is doubt. They want you to pull up to the curb, know you're going to arrive on time, know that you're going to have the guests out there, you're going to make sure you go through the tour, you're going to educate them, they're going to get off the tour at the time that they said, and they're going to go into their meetings or go into their receptions. That's what they want. They want you just to make sure that you do exactly what they want you to do. And that's basically how I did it at first. I mean, I went in there saying to them, this is what my product is. This is how I feel. I pour your heart out to them and say, this is it. I am here to educate these people when they come out. I have the best team. I have the best equipment. We have, it's cleanliness throughout. It's going to be maintained. You're not going to have to worry about breakdowns, all that kind of stuff. We will make sure that we take care of your guests like you would want them taken care of. Well, it's great to say it all, when you're inside of a board meeting with them. Dave needs to see it. And then basically that's what happens. I mean, luckily, Stellar Adventures and my guides and the equipment basically paid the bill. You know what I mean? Like, we basically started running these tours exactly the way they wanted to. If they needed something twisted, we were like, no problem, we can do that. They need a sign in the windows. Okay, no problem, we can do that. And then you just build that trust. And now it's like clockwork. They call, we send the contract. They know that we're going to be at the hotel at 30 minutes before we take off for the tour. And they know that their guests are going to be back on time and don't have to worry about it. So as long as we're out of their mind, because they have so many other things to deal with, you did your job. And that's going to create more business with other DMCs, because they're going to hear that we did this. They're going to hear that we did this. And then it's just going to keep going from there. So the DMCs are really, when I started out, the family side of it, the FITs were what helped grow the business because of those phone calls. The DMCs are what really allowed me to expand in many more tours than what we do when we're talking about the Hummers and the ATVs. I mean, I created a catering company. I created a bar service from their corporate groups wanting to do dining in the desert when we did these Hummer tours. So again, I started using a catering company that would meet us out there, and I was like, oh, you guys are great. And then I was like, okay, this is getting popular. I'm going to create my own catering company. We can cut out that side of it. And that was a huge bonus to the destination management companies and the meeting planners, because now one phone call was getting them the tour, the catering, the bar service, the restrooms, the entertainment, instead of calling 6 different phone numbers and the day of the tour confirming 6 different times and wondering if 6 different activities are going to all be out in the desert at the same time. It was one call. Yeah. It was one call. So I made their job as easy as possible. And I think that's really what they want, because they've got the corporation in their ear nonstop. The last thing they need to worry about me. So that's basically, I try to make it an extension of the DMC. And once they give me this stuff, they don't worry about it. They're done. As soon as we get the contract signed, what's on that contract is going to get done.
And you're making more money.
Yeah. So that's always that's a big part of business. Yeah. That's a bonus.
All right. So, in 2003, you added ATVs, you grew that fleet. In 2015, you had UTVs. You probably added a couple things in between there. Yeah. Tell us where you're at today as far as, and then all of a sudden you came out of nowhere and you're like, yeah, I do catering and bars. And so, that was unexpected. So what does your entire operation look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, again.
And like size, like number of vehicles.
Yeah,
I mean,
the outfitter goal that I had in 2000 when I originally, was thinking if this was going to be able to be a long-term business or something that was just going to be fun to do while the fat is in, the outfitter, we hit it. I mean that I'm so excited that, like I said, I used to go to an industry event, a luncheon, and be like, oh, hey, JJ, there's JJ the Hummer guy. That's gone. You know what I mean? There's JJ. Oh my God, they forget half the things that we do now when they try to say what we do. I mean, we do the Hummers, We do our military blazers, which, like I said, in that fleet, we can do 110 people at once, which handles a lot of our corporate side of it all the way down to our families of 2 and 3. So our ATV and UTVs, we can do just in our fleet 64 people in the ATVs and the UTVs combined. And that's going to be the part we're growing in. But then we started to create these activities from those tours, from those vehicles, like what we're about to get into right now, the summertime, which is our slow season because it's off season out here with the heat that we have. Well, what am I going to do? We don't run our afternoon tours because of just safety. Well, I can't just go, all right, well, close up shop. The bills still come in. Insurance is still paid. Like you still have to find something to do. So we run first thing in the morning on a lot of those activities, but I started to look at the night. And I was like, okay, I need to create something at night to be able to get these business travelers that are in meetings all day that don't have any other chance to go, or just the people that are traveling and want to be at the pool all day, but they're like, hey, we don't want to just go to dinner. There's got to be something else to do but dinner. Well, I created a stargazing and night vision tour where we go out to the Sonoran Desert, which the bonus is our wildlife out here is 75% nocturnal. So people go out in the middle of the day going, where are the snakes? They're nowhere close to being out there. I mean, it's way too hot for them. At night, everything's moving around. The little critters that are moving, the predators are out trying to find them. So it is really, really cool. That expansion kind of just grew off of the Hummer part of it. But we have a professional astronomer, sets up his telescope out there. So it's literally like a live planetarium for these guests. You think if you're from the East Coast, you don't even see a star when you're in the city. You know what I mean? If you're in a city, you're not seeing it. Out here, you can see the Milky Way with the naked eye. You can see the space station go across the sky. I mean, without the telescope. Those are no telescope needed. So the astronomer just will sit there and basically answer any questions they have, which is a fantastic part of it. But then we continue down the trail with the night vision devices and try to spot out the nocturnal wildlife. There's watering holes that we have throughout our trip, which is where you're going to see most of the activity. And the bonus is it's nighttime. The sun's gone. We're away from the concrete jungle, so that heat that you feel that comes up from the concrete, we're on the dirt out there. It's anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees cooler out there just because of that. So that is a tour that's basically allowed me to get through a lot of the summer months, the tougher summer time for a lot of these off-road activities.
Yeah. So you have the Hummers, the ATVs, the UTVs. You do your day tours, your night tours. You have the catering company.
Yep.
You've got the bar, the liquor.
Yep.
Do you need a license for that?
Well, that's the Arizona liquor law. Is the great thing about it is you don't need a liquor license to be a mobile bar company. You have to go through a establishment that has either a Series 6 or a Series 9 liquor license. So like we have a company that we've done where all of the purchases are done through them. Like if Stellar Adventures bought the alcohol or if the catering company bought the alcohol, that's illegal because you need a liquor license. But if they're purchased through the vendor and we're just serving it, all our bartenders need to have is the liquor class that they take, and then the food handling, which is anything for most of the catering. So
do you is that like a restaurant or a liquor store?
No, it'd be a liquor store,
just like a liquor.
Any place that you can go purchase and carry out. It's the same way. So we basically take the client to purchase the client's card to purchase it. So we're just the service that's doing all the pickup and everything and serving them and going.
You're just buying it retail.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, so you have that. You do porta potties.
Yes.
Bathroom service. Great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that obviously came again when you're out in the middle of the desert doing the bar service and a cookout. I mean, the guys have no problem going out to the side, but the ladies are like, okay, we need to do something. So yeah, we made a self-contained, we call it the Stellar Restroom. Yeah. Nice. And but it's completely contained, 2 stalls, so we don't need any water hookups or anything, so we can pull it anywhere, and it's completely self-contained. So it's really nice, and it also has the luxury of not being like a porta potty, So that's the nice part of it. But yeah, so that extended from that part too.
Cool. You've got mountain biking.
Yes. So that's the newest. So our newest activity as of the end of last season, and this is the first full season we've been running the hiking and biking side of it. So it's something that I've been wanting to do for about 3 years now to add that activity. And again, just the same model that we've been discussing the whole time these people were like, the Hummer guys and the ATV guys would start bringing the guests back, and they, we're essentially concierge on wheels. Because now we just went and did an awesome activity. They're like, what restaurants do you like? What other activities should we do? What would you recommend? Well, we were getting a lot of the guides, they were asking what hiking and biking, So basically, I'm an avid hiker just myself, so I'd get them calling me going, where do you hike? Where would you go? Well, there's a lot of trails that I wouldn't recommend going by yourself if you're a visitor to here. If you don't know what you can encounter or know when to go, or there's just a lot of,
being airlifted off Camelback Mountain.
Being locals, and obviously now it's making national news. I mean, we have unfortunately a handful of deaths a year from whether you're injured or you just the dehydration factor, because people just don't realize how quickly that you can get dehydrated out here. So again, it came from that. I was like, this is something that I need to create. I've always wanted to create it. I've got the motorized side of it that we've got almost everything covered in the sense of you drive or just sit back and relax. So the hiking and biking came about. And it's been everything that I was hoping it would be. I mean, because we're getting people out there safely, which is the best thing. Hiking, just as much like the ATVing was, you just feel more hands-on. You're one with nature. You're going down the trails on the ATV. You've got the brush hitting you a little bit. You can feel it. The air is flowing through there. The hiking's the same way. I mean, you're zigzagging up this trail that is just unbelievably tough for most people, and then when you get to the very top of it, you just like, man, this is Phoenix, this is Scottsdale. I mean, you can see for as far, and that noise is gone. So it's just a nice way to get people up there. And again, it's also, some people aren't into off-roading or the adventurous, ATVing or UTVing. They want to do something that's closer to their hotel. The great thing is we're permitted on every trail in the Phoenix area. That's the great thing about it, is so if you're at the Phoenician, we've got 4 or 5 different trails that you can go to that are within a couple miles from you. We don't have to travel a far distance, which, like for the ATVs and UTVs, there's set areas that the National Forest allows us to use because they need to monitor the usage. So when it comes to the trails, they're all over the place. So they're so much closer and in town. So it's a great way for those hikers. And again, if you want to get a little more of the adventure out of it, the bike, you still get to experience that thrill of handling it, but it's, hiking on wheels. I mean, you're still going to be able to do those cool trails and those switchbacks and get out in the middle of nowhere. And then once you park that bike, you look around and you're like, oh my goodness. You know what I mean? Like, you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're still in the city, is the craziest thing. Brown's Ranch, which is one of our most popular trails. I mean, you're just north of the beautiful Four Seasons, but once you get out in the middle of the trail, you can't see anything. I mean, there's nothing but boulders. And they're like, how are we in the city? That's one of the best things about being in a city this large and having that much land to still be able to use.
Yeah, and it creates a ton of variety for the different types of people that are calling. Yeah.
All
right, so to wrap it up, 20 years this year. If you had to think back and go through the entire process again, what would you have done differently?
Man.
Dropping the hammer at the end.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Done differently in the 20 years. I probably would have added the hiking and biking earlier. I mean, that's my one, like I said, you're never too late because we have it now. But I think that growing the motorized side of it, which was my main focus, I was neglecting some of those guests that aren't into the motorized side of it, or more into the nature part of it, who have been traveling here for several years, obviously, many years before I was ever in business. But I think that would be my one regret, because I think that's where I would have left some money on the table, is those people and those experiences that maybe didn't even have a guided tour and just did it on their own, but maybe didn't get the full benefit of, walking that trail, but having a guide tell them about what they're walking by. So I would probably say, my one regret is I would like to started that, probably 10 years ago. I think would have been a great way to get going on that side of it. So
it's also a low cost for entry. Is that why? There's no maintenance if no one's out.
That's the other nice thing about it, is obviously you don't have all those moving parts. You know, I mean, it's just the people. So, but I will tell you, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have some of the best hiking and biking guides in the business. You have to be a lot more personal when you're a hiking and biking guide versus an ATV guide who's out in front of you and you're following him down and we stop and talk to him and answer questions. Or the Hummer guy, you know, he's talking the whole time from pickup to drop off. But not only the ATV or the hiking and biking guides, which is how you build the company from those good guides on, they are not only there to educate and entertain, they have to make sure you're safe. So I mean, it's a tough job. Like, people think, oh, they just walk in front of you and you follow them. That's not the case at all. I mean, if you've been on the trails here, any one step can change the whole thing. So they have to make sure you're safe, but also make sure that you get the education you want and have fun. Yeah. I mean, that's the number one thing. And
your fleet right now, so at its current state, you said, I think earlier, that you're one of the biggest in the Southwest.
Yeah, I in the sense of an outfitter, a company that owns everything that they offer. Right. I don't know of any company in the Southwest that does at the capacity what we do. I mean, there's definitely companies that outsource to different, outsource ATVs, maybe have Hummers or outsource Hummers and do hiking and biking. But to have everything under one roof, owned by one person, I don't know of anybody that's larger than what we do.
Do you know how many vehicles you have?
Yes, I actually, because we just were working on getting everything in a fleet, and I was shocked because I didn't realize it, but we have 68 vehicles.
Nice.
Counting obviously all the transportation trucks, the trailers, the ATVs and all that stuff. But yeah, I was even taken aback because I walked back through it, but I've never just physically counted until they put it down on my desk and I was like, wow.
Well, it's an impressive site. We'll put a photo or a video up that we had from when we visited you a couple months ago, but it is an impressive warehouse and a new site. So thank you for joining us on the Tips for Tour Operator podcast, and we appreciate it. If anyone wants to, your website is?
StellarAdventures.com.
StellarAdventures.com.
Yep. So we have video of all the different tours on the website. It'll have all the information that we discussed, pricing. And obviously you can always reach me through the website. I'm on the phone all the time.
Yeah, and your social security number is?
Yeah.
Just kidding. All right, thank you very much. Please join us next time for our next webinar, and, podcast, and be safe out there. Thanks.